So lastly is our open-ended question, and it had to do with cross-pair performance with a two-breed rotation at equilibrium. Since it's at equilibrium, we know the fractions are 2/3, 1/3. We know that. And where it's a two-breed rotation, including Angus and Hereford. Test A and Test B had different stages of the rotation, so I'm going to go through both, starting with a two-breed rotation where the calves are sired by Hereford. So we have our Hereford sire, and we know that in a rotation, the breed of the sire is the breed that's the least in the dam, so we know the Hereford goes to the 1/3. And so the 2/3 is just filled in by the other breed, which is Angus. And that produces a 2/3 Hereford, 1/3 Angus. And then when we need to contribute maternal, or we need to think about maternal hybrid vigor, we know that the other cross that produced these dams are going to be Angus times 2/3 Hereford, 1/3 Angus. Okay, that would reproduce these dams, and that's important for our maternal hybrid vigor. So the first step is our weighted breed average. So basically you just take a proportion of that breed in the offspring and multiply it by our average. So we have our 2/3 by the 485, and then the 1/3 times the 520, and that gives us 496.667. Then we have correction for maternal differences. We're going to start with our Hereford. Our Hereford constant is 0, but I'm still going to write this out. So we have 1/3 Hereford in this dammed minus 2/3 Hereford in the offspring. Then we're going to move on to Angus with a constant of 20, and we have 20 times 2/3 because there's 2/3 Angus in the dam minus 1/3 because there's 1/3 Angus in the offspring, and that right there is equal to 6.667. Then direct hybrid vigor, we're looking at the cross that produced the offspring that's in front of us. The fraction for two breed rotations at equilibrium for both maternal and direct hybrid vigor is always going to be 2/3, but I'm going to go ahead and write out the equation over here. So we take the constant and we're going to multiply it by the amount of Hereford in the sire times the amount of Angus in the dam plus the amount of Angus in the sire times the amount of Hereford in the dam. And that fraction right there is 2/3. So it's going to be 2/3 by our hybrid vigor direct constant, which is 18, so that's 12. And then the same goes for our maternal hybrid vigor, but we're looking at the cross that produced the dam. So this cross right here, and it's going to work the same way. We're going to have the amount of Angus in the sire times the amount of Hereford in the dam times the amount of Hereford in the sire times the amount of Angus in the dam. And that still gives us a fraction of 2/3. So in total, our expected average weaning weights for this cross is 523.336. We were lenient when it comes to rounding because when we're working with 2/3 and 1/3, it can get a little hairy depending on how you round it. So then moving on to our next cross. Since we did Hereford sire, we're going to do Angus sire, and we know if the Angus is the sire, then the Angus is going to be the 1/3 in the dam because that's the least in the dam. So the Hereford takes over the 2/3. And that produces our 2/3 Angus, 1/3 Hereford calves. And this cross right here that we did up here is going to be how the dams were produced. That's how our rotation works. So once again, we do our weighted breed average. We take our 2/3 and we multiply it by the Angus average. And then we take our 1/3 by the Hereford average. That gives us 508.33. Correction for maternal differences. Working with Hereford, because that's our 0, we have 2/3 Hereford in the dam minus 1/3 Hereford in the offspring. Then we move to Angus with our 20, and we have 1/3 Angus in the dam minus 2/3 Angus in the offspring. So that answer is negative 0.667. Then moving on to direct and maternal hybrid vigor. Again, direct hybrid vigor is looking at the cross that's right in front of us. The fractions are always going to be 2/3, 1/3. So let's just write it out. We're going to do the amount of Angus in the sire times the amount of Hereford in the dam plus the amount of Angus or Hereford in the sire times the amount of Angus in the dam. So once again, our fraction is 2/3. And then we take that 2/3 and we multiply it by 18, which is 12. And then for our maternal hybrid vigor, we're looking at the cross that produced the dam. So this cross right here produce the dam. And so we're once again going to have the amount of Hereford in the sire is 1, the amount of Angus in the dam is 2/3, and then Angus in the sire, Hereford in the dam. So once again, our fraction is 2/3 times 12, which is 8. So this total was 521.66. And that is the answers to both the types of open-ended questions that were on the test.